What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, if you are new around here, make sure you are subscribed before we jump into our first crazy entitled parent story of the day. Here we go. Entitled parent tries to steal $25,000 from her teenage daughter. So, for some background info, when I was 12 years old, I was hit by a drunk driver while crossing the street. I managed to survive with a few stitches and completely busted legs. My entitled mum refused to take me to get physical therapy because she didn't think I needed it. Anyway, so the case went on and I was awarded $25,000 that was supposed to be with the bank getting interest. Well, at 16 years old, I moved out, and after getting treatment for some of my trauma disorders, we finally made the big step and called the lawyer. No pooping bricks. So the lawyer told us that a few months before, my mum contacted her asking to have the money put with her bank. Now that seemed fishy, so the lawyer asked for my email address to contact me to make sure this is what I wanted. Well, surprise, surprise, I didn't know about it. The lawyer essentially gave my mum a big FU. After the lawyer told us the story, she said, "In all my years, I have never had a parent try to steal a kid's money after getting hurt. Leave it up to my mother to be one of a kind in the worst way possible." Yeah, not really too sure what to say about this one, guys. Stealing 25k, or at least attempting to steal 25k from your children. Kind of reminds me of yesterday's episode when we talked about, stealing money from your children, but that wasn't stealing, that was just asking for money. This is literally stealing or attempting to steal, and it's not a small amount of money. It's a quarter of 100k, guys. I mean, I can't stress that enough, that is mad. And also, it was because this person got hit by a car. It's damages. That's just mental. Now moving on to our second story, entitled mum tells her 5-year-old, "You ruin every family outing" at a pumpkin patch. It's now a family tradition to say this to a family member if they're acting out or something goes wrong. Okay, so I come from a large family, and one of the things we enjoy is getting together to take the kids to the pumpkin patch, and then meet up at my big sister's house for stew, carving, and dessert. We've missed doing this the past 2 years, but that's another story. This happened in, I want to say, about 2012-ish. My family had all met up at one of our local pumpkin patches, and we were standing in line for kettle corn, hot dogs, hot chocolate, and caramel apples. Pumpkin patch snacks. Now, most of us had already finished with finding our pumpkins, and decided to grab snacks before getting lost in the corn maze. While we're standing there, we hear this woman, the EM, saying things very loudly. "You are unbelievable, knock it off," etc. We all just kind of look at each other like, uh-oh, someone's in trouble, but we didn't see where it's coming from right away. I then look over and see my best friend, we'll call her Amy, with her daughter, we'll call her Heather, 10 years at the time. They were kind of rushing towards us with this crazy look of what the F on their face. I noticed they don't have their pumpkins yet. Couldn't find any good ones? Amy said, "Oh my god, no, we stopped looking because it was getting crazy over there." Huh? What do you mean? The 10-year-old Heather looked at Amy and said softly, "Mum, can we maybe get pumpkins later? Like after they leave?" "They" was whispered even more, followed by her giving a quick glance back to the area they just left. Amy said to her daughter, "Sure, sweetie." Then she looked at me and says in a hushed tone, "There's some lady over there yelling at some little girl. I think it's her daughter, but the girl is just crying that she wants some other pumpkin her dad got." Amy then continued to tell me that this little girl couldn't be more than 5 years old, and she just keeps saying, "No, I want daddy's pumpkin," to the entitled mum, but her mum is not having it. Apparently, the child was firm and kind of soft-spoken at first, and the mum seemed like she was trying to hush the situation. But when the girl wouldn't give in, the entitled mum lost it and started yelling things like, "Knock it off, just quit already." Both Amy and Heather were standing fairly close to them, and when the entitled mum lost it, it made Heather jump and rush to Amy for protection. Amy told Heather, "Let's go find OP and see if she wants to help us pick one out." Heather agreed and they rushed over to me. I looked down at Heather and asked if she wanted to do the corn maze first, and then we could go get her a pumpkin. She was happy about that. Then I asked her if she wanted a hot chocolate, and started asking her if she wanted to go stand with my mum and my little brothers, so she didn't get bored standing in line. that is when we heard the entitled mum start yelling again. But this time she was marching past us, dragging her daughter by the arm. No, not literally dragging, we would have stepped in if we saw that. So she's pulling her daughter out of the pumpkin patch and heading towards the exit and parking lots. All the while she's making these loud grunting exasperation noises. And my whole family is watching on, trying to figure out what is happening. To be honest, everyone at the patch within earshot of this woman is watching. Then it happens. She pauses slightly in her grunting rampage towards the exit, long enough to look at this 5-year-old child and say, "You've ruined every family outing," and then continues towards the exit. We all just look at each other in shock, and then something else, perfect timing, happens. My son, who was 12 years old at the time, wasn't looking where he was going because he was distracted by the entitled mum as well. He trips slightly on a hay bale and drops his hot chocolate on the ground. I looked at him and with a huge smile on my face, yell, in the most obnoxious entitled mum voice I can muster, "Oh my god, you ruined every family outing." All I could hear was laughter. I looked over at the entitled mum and she was frozen in place for a minute before turning red and running out to the parking lot. No one clapped. It was just funny to those who witnessed her behaviour. And yes, my son laughed too, he knew I was not serious. So now it's a family tradition to use this phrase anytime our family is together and something happens. My sister burnt the stew one year. I forgot a Christmas gift at home once. My son tripped and knocked a gaming system over, turning it off. Pretty much anything going wrong anytime gets this phrase, it just never gets old. Oh, I love this, you know, just making light of a bad situation. I mean, the fact that this woman is telling a 5-year-old, their daughter, that you've ruined a day out is pretty crazy. I mean, they're 5 years old. That sort of behavior cannot go unnoticed, and that is why it was so important that you just took the mick out of her right there and then. Everyone laughed. She knew she'd effed up because she ran away, probably embarrassed, and hopefully, yeah, she has learned the lesson not to castigate her 5-year-old daughter for doing something that any normal 5-year-old would do, have a bit of a tantrum. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, you obviously got to reprimand your daughter in some way, but not publicly in front of everyone saying you ruined the entire day. That is mental. Now moving on to our final story of today's video, entitled Mummy. My kids and I are moving into your house, and as a compromise, I'm gonna let you live there too. I'm a 32-year-old woman and I just bought my first house. It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and it's just what I need right now. I'm single and have 2 dogs and a cat. My sister is 34, has 3 children, and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lately, she's been talking about how such a tiny living space is not enough for the 4 of them. When she got to know about the house I had bought, she became very upset and told me I was being wasteful, as I'm single and don't have kids and therefore don't need such a big space. I reminded her that what I do with my hard-earned money is none of her business. She went on to complain to our mother about how selfish I was being. Yesterday evening, I got a call from my mum telling me I should let my sister and her kids move into the house. My house. I told her that no one was going to live in the house that I paid for but me, and that extra space would be great for my dogs to play in. My mum also got very upset with me and told me I was being unreasonable. That my sister's kids are growing and need the space more than my dogs. I offered to help my sister out financially so she could rent a bigger place. My mum got my sister on the phone, who shot down the idea, telling me I needed to let her and her kids live in my house. When I refused again, she very generously suggested a compromise. I could live in the house with her and her kids and would not have to find somewhere else to live. She said this as if she was doing me a favor. I told her she had lost her mind and hung up. However, my mum and sister kept on pestering me, with my mum trying to guilt trip me by telling me that my sister had been crying. She wanted so badly to live in a nice house like mine. I got fed up and decided to shame them. I made a post on Am I the Butthole about this, and of course, most of the commentators could hardly believe how entitled my mum and sister are. They got bashed pretty badly. After getting the verdict from AITA, I decided to send my sister and mum a link to this post, letting them know that I had made it. As expected, they freaked the F out. My mum texted and called many times, telling me what a horrible daughter I am and how I've embarrassed her in front of so many people. I told her to calm down, as these are all strangers on the internet who have no idea who she is. But asking my mum to listen to reason is like asking my cat to stop shoving things off of horizontal surfaces. So I told her I'd talk to her when she's willing to act like an adult. My sister has been crying about this to my mum and any other relative who will listen. Most of them won't. They had been on my side from the start and had agreed that my sister's demands were ridiculous. They think this whole thing is hilarious. And you know what, guys? So do I. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I really want to read out that post from Am I the Butthole, but I haven't done a video on it in so long. If you can get this video to 5,000 likes in the first 12 hours, I know that's quite hard, but 5k likes in 12 hours and I will cover that exact post in tomorrow's video if you can hit that like target, just so I have some sort of guarantee that you are going to be interested in the video, because that'd be amazing. I mean, well, you know what happens, but still, I want to read through the comments, see what people are thinking, because this is just one crazy post. I think the idea of using Reddit to get back at someone, or just, you know, in a more general sense, posting someone's entire story on social media to try and embarrass them when they are doing something that is so horrible like this, is a great way of getting back at someone, you've got to admit, because this makes no sense, right? I mean, why would you want to move in with someone? Well, not why would you want to. Why should you force your way into moving in with someone who's spent money themselves, earned money themselves, and got a nice house for themselves when you can't afford to do that because maybe you've not worked hard enough, or, you know, you just chose to have children? That's not the way it should work, you know. You've chosen to have children, which is one thing, but that means you're probably going to not be able to afford a nicer house. It's just the way it works. I don't know, like, overall, I don't really understand why your mum's getting involved in this in the first place, and I think your sister is just as entitled as your mum. What a lovely pair of women. That's all I'll say. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Entitled Parents. If you haven't already, go and check out this brand new merch, by the way. I'm loving wearing this because, you know what, it's just very comfortable and the design's very clean, which is one thing I was after. It's on screen right now. Click my face, you can see it on screen. Also, click the big yellow R to subscribe to my channel. And then finally, after doing all of that, click the video on screen as well to go and watch another one right away. With that all being said, I will see you guys tomorrow with a brand new upload, so don't go anywhere. I'll see you then.